Hello everybody, this is Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, and welcome to the ET Whisperer YouTube channel. Hello everybody, this is Rob Gauthier. How are you guys doing today? I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone's having a decent to good to great to amazing week. I'm coming back with you guys today for a new private session shared. The lovely people of our community who get these private sessions, who spend money out of their own pocket to have these, have the gracious heart and desire to share these with the public for the betterment of the collective. I always tip my hats to people who do this because they're taking very private subjects and making them very public. And even though some share their identity, some don't, just to put your voice or even just the answers to your personal questions out there, I think is really brave. I understand why most people don't do it. But for the few who do, I just really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for sharing this. Everything helps the collective. And when we had the last session, mid to late February, I think it was around the 15th to 20th of February, when Christian allowed us to use his session, and we dropped that. Everyone loved it. Everyone had great insight, and even though the topics were very personal to him, it still helped a lot of people with similar things that were happening with their experience, or just in general helpful to have information and insight. So I wanted to thank all of you guys who have been supporting us here at Patreon. We're going to have some changes coming up fairly soon again. We've been making a lot of changes. We said we're going to move with the changes that work and keep them, and ones that don't work, shift those back around. But also just in general, we're trying to get more content out here. We're trying to go to Patreon every week instead of every 2 weeks, and we're trying to get more people to interact with us over on the Discord. We really want to share more information, and the best way for us to do that is to be able to fulfill all of our own obligations financially and stuff. So any of you guys who are interested in getting sessions, getting group sessions, getting monthly channeling classes, any of those things, hang out to the end of the video. And I know this is a long video to hang out to the end of it, but I will mark that in the time frames below, along with all the questions, so that you know exactly where to go if you want to hear about what we've got going on and some of the changes that we're going to make. Until then, I hope you really enjoy this session. We've got subjects from how to manifest all the way to amazing, great context of the limitations of manifestation internally, how to balance your emotional inner self and the mental self, and all sorts of beautiful topics that are relatable to everyone, I think. So enjoy this session, everyone, and be on the lookout. We do have at least 3 or 4 more sessions from people, private sessions that they are willing to share, and we're going to be releasing those as soon as we get some time to edit it. Things have been a little busy and a little crazy, so enjoy, guys, what you've got going on here. Enjoy everything that's happening. Enjoy this session. Enjoy life in general, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Greetings, this is Aridif, that is Aridif, and this is its fit. We understand that you have many queries for this day, but before diving in to those queries, there are the 2 things that we wish to express. The first, above and beyond all things that are expressed in this day, to know, feel, and of course to perceive that you are loved, in our perspective, is of the utmost importance. And secondly, it is our greatest excitement, and within the same frame excitement in which we co-create with you, not only in this moment alone, but through all perspectives of your linear times, moments as well. And of course, you may begin your queries at your leisure.
Thank you, Aridif. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm excited about our session and our exchange today.
Yes, of course, it is truly our greatest excitement as well.
Okay. Before I begin, couple of things from my side. You have my permission, you and TReb both have my permission to look into my energy. So if at any point in time a question is not clear to you, please feel free to look into it further. That's the first one. And second is I often understand concepts and ideas better with an example. So, if appropriate and if possible, feel free to add an example along with an explanation. It will just help me process the information easier.
Yes, of course.
All right. So, Ardif, my first question is on the limits of a belief. And let me state my question, and I'll give a couple of clarifying examples to be able to articulate my question properly.
Yes, of course.
All right. So, I have often read that this life that we make of around us is a mental construct, right? So whatever we believe, we attract to ourselves. And my question is, are there any limitations to this? And let me provide a few examples so that I can clarify my question. The first example is, if someone was brought up from childhood saying, I understand that we cannot grow back our limbs. If someone loses a arm or a leg, they can't grow it back. But if someone was brought up, saying from childhood, telling him, this kid, that you can always grow back limbs, and we create some books and videos where we doctored these images and show examples of people growing back limbs. And if this kid would grow up and lose a limb, would this belief in him be allow this person to grow back a limb, even though we understand that it's physically not possible for us? That's one example. The other two examples are, back in the day, from my country, there was a TV show where there was a superhero, much like Superman. And what was shown in one of the episodes was that a kid was falling off a ledge, and Superman sweeps up at the last minute to catch, the kid and saves him. However, so what happened was a lot of kids saw this, and they went on the top of their roof and also jumped off with the belief, absolute belief, that this Superman character is going to come and like swoop in at the last minute and save them. But obviously, tragically, that didn't happen. So this is the second example of where is the limitation of the belief. And the third example, just to articulate this properly, is there are a lot of people in mental asylums and mental institutions who have a belief or a mindset that they could be, like, I don't know, they could be Superman, or they are a billionaire, but that somehow doesn't reflect in real life for them to either become a billionaire or Superman. So are there any physical limitations of just believing? Are there any hard physical laws that govern our experiences? That's the question.
Yes, of course. Now, within the construct of your childhood, and of course the age of Rob's childhood and his own parents' childhood, this has slightly different answers than what you would have in this day with children who are growing up in this moment. And there's reason for that is the consciousness shift in the earth and the portion of evolution in which your soul enters and goes through. So, starting with the entirety of the construct, yes, if a child were to be only exposed to other portions of consciousness, entities, humans, and material that is supportive to the regrowing of limb, it would be possible. But the construct where adults lie to that child and tell them that this is true against the construct that is not, then of course the vibration of deceit is placed upon the co-creation of that child. Psychically, children most especially are delicate constructs of reception to vibration, and vibration that comes to them in an imbalanced way will be received in an imbalanced form, even if their mental energy believes that what is being said is true, of course. Then that construct becomes a lie to itself and a lie to the belief systems. Now, there is a simple formula that we will share with you after we have covered all of your examples. The next construct, your Superman entity with children. Now, they are involved, of course, in a society that also believes that if you jump off of a roof, you will die, you will become injured, you will be hurt. The laws of gravity are in effect, and the laws of gravity are one of those laws that are a hard law for the Earth collective consciousness and for the universe at large, depending upon the portions of universal consciousness, and of course, excluding very few of the exceptions that are embedded within this idea. The energy for that construct would be true, and because they believe that construct, they have great investment belief within their own creative reality, but the co-creative reality goes against that energy. And the third example of those that are mentally ill in what levelization of humans call these entities, many of these entities are going through opposite experiences than what the humans around them perceive in manifestation. Some of these entities truly are superhero in an altered version of reality that they are expressing their own consciousness through in a much greater way than what you would be able to realize from perceiving them from a third person or third party perspective. And of course, their own experience can hold some of that vibration to hold great deals of that vibration, yet those around them are perceiving. Now, to understand the greater realm of this entire subject and construct, it must be first understood that there are hard laws, not only in the universal construct, but as well as certain laws dictated to solar systems, to galaxies, to certain planets, or planetary systems that are dual systems, such as the Earth and Moon construct. And all of these are different. Sometimes the laws counterduct one another. Others work together in symmetry and help one another become more strong. So it is greatly dependent upon where that energy is. But humans in the collective consciousness share collective agreements. Those collective agreements are for the most part larger and more significant than the individual human belief about a certain subject, unless those subjects are internally vested or internally proven to one person. As we go back to the child who grows the limbs, if this entity were around other humans who had witnessed growing back of limbs, had perceived other humans doing so, had found scientific evidence that was invested and large group and community around them, or even a small group and community around them, could be enough to open that energy for manifestation qualities. But humans are not regenerative in nature. The construct and blueprint of their own physical body and the archetypal consciousness for vast humanoids do not have regenerative properties. This means that this is one of the harder laws that are bent within physicality, meaning that even if those beliefs were true, even if the construct was true, if human consciousness holds itself in third density, it would be a great deal to overcome that energy. They would not need simply to be 100% belief and investment, but they would require a great deal of all humans to go beyond believing that construct. So, as you ask this query, it is very dependent upon the co-creative status, the individual, the construct itself, and the limitations. But if you desire the more simple rule, it will be that if no rules go against the hard laws written in whatever co-created collective, for your examples, all in the Earth collective, all in your solar system collective, all in our galactic collective consciousness, and of course, most importantly, the universal construct. If none of these are counterductive or counterintuitive to those, then it is a simple equation of percentage of beliefs that are invested. And most humans do not invest themselves with 100% belief, even if they are telling themselves what they perceive as truths, but there is some portion of them that feels as if it could be manipulation. but they lie to themselves about that underlined feeling. You no longer have 100% investment when you are working against your physical body's vessel and the rules that apply to that construct. It will be impossible to make great shifts or changes within that system without being in tune to that system. The recognition that your physical body is not your physical body. It is an amalgamation and co-creation with hundreds of trillions of microbial life, second density nature, as well as individual first density non-mechanical consciousness that arrives at your first density creative layer for the hard aspects of the carbon molecules, the iron molecules, and all of these simple elements that are placed together. You are inhabiting a body that has living quality about it, and unless you are in complete symbiosis with the entirety of that entity, you cannot shift outside of your collective conscious perspective for the Earth collective. That is why no human will grow back their hands or legs. That is why no human will rise from the dead. That is why no human will be able to jump off of a roof and not die unless they are assisted with technology that is within the veins of those constructs. But in the construct of mental illness, as it is quoted, the constructs of how a soul enters those experiences and how the soul is fractured either between itself within one body or fractalized and sharing multiple consciousnesses and multiple bodies and playing the merry-go-round or musical chairs, for lack of better terms, with each body, then of course the constructs are usually built internally and not externally. Those few that are examples of external manifestations are being done so through the auspice of their own creation in the energetic field with another fractal of their consciousness, either a physical body or a scenario that is built outside of that physical realm structured creation.
Thank you, Aridif. That was a pretty good explanation.
Yes, of course.
All right. So my second question is around manifestations. And I have, what I'm looking for is, two-step here. One is, can you give me a few short steps on what the process is to manifest something? That's one. With some examples would be good. And the second one is a clarification, which is in the when it comes to manifesting something, how much of what is the balance between the mental effort versus a physical effort? And the clarification I have here is, let's assume a boxer is preparing for an upcoming boxing match. Where will he be more successful if he spends a majority of his time visualizing and manifesting, visualizing the winning, or will he be more successful if he spends a majority of his time physically practicing his boxing so that he improves in it and he has a better chance of winning?
Yes, of course, going to the first construct of this energy manifestation only can occur in the greatest means of symbiotic relationship with a human individual, the mind and mental body of that entity, the emotional body of that entity, and belief systems that are supportive while feeding that entire energy positive reconfirming affirmations and thoughts of a positive outcome without attachment to an outcome, as well as having no expectations in how, where, what, or when that experience opens, and that is the perfect formula. And of course, being in your now moment is the most vital component of all of this, as most humans do not work within the levels constructs that are in the moment strictly, but often projecting parts of their own consciousness out to the future or out into the past, associating what once was an experience to the possible and probable outcome of this experience, And the example of this is that I have seen myself fail each time that I have tried to take this test. Therefore, it is likely I may fail this time again. I have seen my mother and father fight each time I visit, which means that they will most likely fight again in this moment. That see it to believe it construct that humans work with so greatly, that assists them in manifesting in a positive way, if that is in alignment with what they do desire, becomes a detriment when it is something that they do not desire. And of course, the future construct is as simple as your own mind going out into the next moment, expressing, what will happen if I do this incorrectly? What will it affect in one day from this moment? When it comes time to take that test, will I be able to be in alignment as I am in this moment? Now you are placing so much of your consciousness into your linear past and future. You are out of your now moment. The investment and percentage of investment in each belief plays a great role of that as well, as we have expressed previously. Now, when you are going into the construct of physicality versus mental alone, only factoring into those constructs, there's missing a large part of the equation. The mental energy is more effective than the physical energy in one format, but it is only when it is mixed equally, or at least to the percentage of your own personal mixture that is in alignment with your physical body and archetype of consciousness, masculine and feminine, darkness and light, whatever duality that you have within you, that specific engagement, mental versus emotional, and bring that emotional body with you. If you can work with both the emotional energy and not create panicky emotions, negative thoughts and emotions, and keeping your mental energy, then the percentage and investment of percentage in that belief becomes extraordinarily important. It becomes, for lack of better terms, the thumbnail of your future construct manifested either through failure or acceptance of that energy and completion. So if you are utilizing examples for that energy, if the boxer were to go into a fight, the greatest way is that he allows himself, of course, to have enough physical construct to do what boxing requires. You must have your body in alignment with the task at hand, of course. But assuming that this entity is within a boxing match would bring us to our own perspective that this entity's physical body will be well vested. What is important at that moment then becomes the clarity of mental energy, the perspective that the greatest outcome for that fight will be within that alignment, and of course, the construct with winning that fight does come energy of attachment with your own perspectives and your assumptions on the outcome of that energy. So simply expressing excitement to go to the fight, manifesting the emotions that are clear of fear, judgment, anxiety, self-judgment, or otherwise, and of course keeping the mental energy positive, knowing that you are built for this fight, that this fight is the most important experience of your life, and it does not matter how it will go, it will end perfectly as you desire. Whatever is greatest for the career of that boxer, whatever is greatest for the momentum of that boxer, or the emotional wellness, depending upon that entity's personal desired outcome, and express the simple terms that you desire to be within that fight and hold a vibration of completion. Completion often will associate itself with victory, as you are speaking of individual one-to-one sporting events, especially in that of the combat region. But not always a win is the greatest investment for that entity. As you can be aware, there are many probabilities that can have a loss and bring out greater means to that entity as well.
Understood. So couple of follow-up questions on this. The first one is, you said being in the now, and I'm going to take an example that you used of, preparing for an exam or a test. Um, let's assume we are 2 weeks out from that exam. What would being in the now look like? That's the first one. And the second one was about emotional energy and no attachment and no expectations, right? So my clarification here is, if we are supposed to have positive emotional energy and we are supposed to be excited, we have an expectation and we have an attachment, right? So how do we create positive emotional energy and look at the end without having attachment and without having expectations?
First of all, yes, of course, the human co-created portion of life often cannot strip oneself of an expectation or even a projection outside of the moment that experience, and requires some form of looking forward or backward, of course. If you are preparing for the test in the greatest way of all of the terms that we have expressed in our own perspective, is simply knowing that a test will come in your linear future, that you are excited to take that test, and that test holds a vibration of quality expansion for your life. There's the outcome, knowing that simply taking the test will create a better experience in your life. This is no expectation on what score that you will receive. The outcome specifically in that energy, just simply working to take the test, holding a level of excitement in the moment of the test is important, but also leading up to that construct. Now that you work in linear time, we are not saying that you cannot perceive a future event and place emotion towards it or thought towards it. It is the obsessive nature and negative thoughts that are of consequence, and most humans cannot deter one from the other. It is a simple collaboration of the mindset to work with those energies together. Of course, you are trying to be positive in that moment, and you place positive thoughts only. But the same day that goes and you start feeling less prepared, then of course it will be of second nature to associate that future version with a negative outcome. So then you are placing that negative emotion. The positive emotions do a great deal, knowing that an event will occur in your linear future and looking forward to that. So we are not saying that this should not be a part of that energy if it is desired and if it creates further joy, excitement, and sparks other positive emotions from the spawning of that moment to the future. But any time that you work with that construct too long, it will always hold polarity, at least in thought, if not thought and emotion itself. And when taking that test, the construct of the emotional balances that your own energy holds compared to that of the mental will be personally individualized for the construct and for the co-creation. With that example, you yourself hold a heavy mental energy, although you are still in touch with certain levels of your emotions, better than a great deal of humans are, especially in this moment at your time in history. You are still leaning forward with the mental body much higher rates for your own self. 70 to 75 and at peaks 80% of the mental body activated at that moment can be the right mixture for you, and only holding 20 to 30% of emotional body that will not give you detriment. Whereas if Rob were taking the same construct and facing that, it would require nearly 60% to 70% of the mental body and the rest of the emotional. It is because both of your consciousnesses that are inhabiting the bodies as an entire entity are different. Now, knowing this, and knowing the individual that looks forward to it, simply having excitement for this upcoming test, knowing that it will be in 2 weeks, knowing that it lies ahead, and simply be excited to take that test. And of course, practicing the mental energy that goes along with this is also not a detriment. Reading pages of books that are dedicated and known to be on the test will not infringe upon that energy unless you start reading it and it creates anxiety, fear, or the association of the mental body activating those expectations for either positive or negative consequence.
All right. Thank you, Aridif.
Yes, of course.
Aridif, I want to talk about meditation now. And the question I have is why is it so hard for me to meditate? I generally have a pretty strong willpower for other things, but when it comes to my meditation, I feel that my practice falls off after a few days. There are phases, sometimes where I can get on long stretches of meditation, and when I sit down, I actually enjoy meditating, but I'm not able to have a consistent practice. So the two questions I have is, can you tell me why I'm facing this and any suggestion for me to solve this? And secondly, I understand that meditation is really important, in ascension and spiritual growth. Are there any other suggestions or techniques that I could try as well to continue my spiritual growth and progress?
Yes, first of all, the construct of meditation, as it were, for yourself, and the difficulties for going towards that is that you understand and perceive the nature of meditation itself. It is a quieting of one's mind or a sitting with oneself, an allowance of the internal dialogue, and with a heavier mental body lies the responsibility of sitting through a great deal more processing than most humans do in meditative states. And when you meditate, of course, you enjoy the shutting down of the external stimulus and the ability to come into yourself a bit more. Now, the construct in which you have shared holds beliefs. And of course, we have shared a great deal of times with other humans that meditation is not always for everyone. And what we mean by this is meditation, in our own perspective, is the greatest tool for the greatest amount of human beings to utilize in order to find their own self. But we have also shared that meditation is a ritualistic construct created by humans as an opportunity to go further into themselves, just as a pagan will work with a spell and place articles of plants within the cauldron and place other various objects while utilizing very ritualistic words. These constructs work because there's a belief system within that entity and within the collective consciousness that if you are to go through these steps that it will work. Meditation is a self form of hypnotization, and it hypnotizes yourself to allow yourself to be yourself. It does not equate meditation to spiritual growth and ascension. Ascension and spiritual growth happen even to humans who are not aware of it, because it is a growth and expansion of you as a consciousness, and it is done so specifically through a gateway and threshold of energetic shift that is out of the control of the human collective, or but to say the human lower fractal consciousness cannot adjust or steer that energy. They are only able to go through that energy. And it's vitally important to understand that when you are working with your own consciousness, if you desire to maximize the expansion of yourself in meditative states, all that is required is a simple acknowledgement of yourself. And we understand this can be very jarring as a construct to yourself as you understand the entirety of the consequence, meditation, and simply expressing yourself or being yourself. But what we mean by yourself is your true self. And that part of you is not a part that you've fully met to a large degree. Of course, you have scratched the surface Some of this through meditations, but most of it through living your experience in life. And when you have those moments where you feel carefree to the world, where you feel completely in the moment, where you feel as if nothing outside of your energy can affect what is within your energy, that is the moment. That is what you are trying to achieve through meditation. That is the vibration of greatest growth and expansion possible. That can be achieved, of course, without meditation. Meditation itself comes with a great deal of perks for the human construct because it is the overall accepted energy. It allows you to separate yourself from visual distraction. It allows you to be in a quiet, serene environment, often in nature, which is, of course, even greater than simple quiet or shutting off the visual distractions. But having all of those things at once is enormous benefit for the human collective and the human individual. It allows you to do something that humans' lifestyles do not allow them to be, and that is to be with yourself. If you are able to be with yourself without going into meditation, you can make greater strides still than even most forms of meditation, because you have equated meditation with a necessary tool in order to expand and to evolve in ascend. Then of course it becomes problematic for you. It becomes a bit of a chore, a bit of a requirement, just as going to school, just as doing chores as a child for your parents, just as all of the things that humans do not like to do. Because you have associated as one of those things required, then of course either reconditioning those beliefs or finding the simplest way. Now, one of the greatest constructs that we give as an alternative for meditation, going into the greatest vibrational frequency that you feel aligns with that excited part of you, the part of you that shuts out the rest of the world and allows you to go inside. Mostly for humans, this is music. Mostly for humans, this is entheogen drugs such as hallucinogenic mushrooms, ayahuasca, peyote, etc. These constructs allow you to go more deeply into that mental and emotional body and be yourself without fear of either others' judgments or self-judgments. It is a place in where excitement can be manifested outward fully. And of course, there are many different things that you can do to work with this, but these are the most common that may work for you.
Aridif, that was perfect. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Aridif, the next question is about chakras. And the question here is, I understand the concept of them. Briefly, if you could explain the importance or the relevance of them briefly, and would it be possible for you to look into my energies to tell me about my chakra alignment or the level at which they are aligned or harmonious, and if they're or in balance, and if there is anything that I can do to improve that?
Yes, of course. In the most brief fashion, to look at the chakra system as a whole. It is a system of energy in which non-physical consciousness is able to transmit vibrational frequency into the physical realm world. It's the antenna for what consciousness that does not exist within the body to be able to directly communicate in contact with the human being. But it is also a two-way street. It also goes back into the non-physical. So the energies that are within transmit through the DNA and through the parts of the DNA that are also activated antennas, the emotional energy. When you start becoming anxious or angry, that is the chakra going into imbalance, because your soul is sending signals of love in unconditional fashion and wisdom. And in that moment, you are separate from that love or wisdom. This is why you feel your stomach aching when you are anxious or nervous. It is why you can feel dizzy or lightheaded when you start thinking too deeply about constructs that create the other emotions inside of your stomach. And This is why a great deal of many humans often create forms of illness without that balance, energetic properties being at one with one another and in complete resonance with your desired persons, your natural persons, and of course those hold resistance. Now, the function in a very physical form are the energetic grid systems in which humans are attached to one another and attached to the earth. And those grids are below you, within the earth, bound in the center portion of the earth that connect to each human through the root chakra, and above you in the atmosphere that come down into your crown chakra. And as they go through the chakras, they are interacting as a web of shared energy. So these chakras on non-physical level are the balance and imbalance of emotions, but on a very physical level it is the sharing of a consciousness with your collective form. And of course, when that energy comes to you from others and it holds in balance, the earth takes that imbalance and gives you back the most pure form of that energy. And the ether does this as well. This is why you see weather patterns occur, as the imbalances of the greater collective being filtered through the earth are what creates the weather systems and patterns. Now, your own chakra system, of course, holds imbalances as all humans do so. If we were to give you a form of comparison to other human consciousnesses, you are doing quite well. Even though there are resistances in most of your chakras at moderate to low levels, there are two chakras that hold higher forms in balance than the rest, but these chakras are also better than the most average of human consciousness. Most humans who only work with 8 to 10% of their entire consciousness embedded inside of their physical body have large resistances, 20 to 30% in each chakra, while most of your chakras are 15% or less, and 2 are 25% or less. And these areas specifically are the third chakra and the heart chakra. Now, although you have an understanding of yourself and you have an understanding of place, environment, the world in the co-creative form, and understand through both direct and indirect ways your own consciousness and how it works, there are still parts of your own identity that you are confused about. There are parts of your own life that you do not connect your dots to. That is the resistance in the third chakra. Your linear time systems also being a part of that resistance, consistently working through a time system where you are always looking back and forward. This is natural with all humans. The heart chakra also, as part of this reason, the energetic division that you have between emotion and mental energy. It does not depend upon your heavier mental energy than emotional, as we've expressed previously, but it does hold to the times in where emotional exchanges are needed or desired or required by your own self. It can come to in a difficult way. This is why you protect your own heart with other human beings. This is the wall around the heart, and most humans have this at very small to very large levels, and of course yours is extremely moderate to small, but still holds enough resistance around. And simply this means that because you understand that humans can be volatile, that humans can be of negative vibrational frequency, that when other humans approach you, there is caution that is embedded within your own ability to accept emotionally the energy that they are sharing with you. So sometimes, and most often, love is a great portion of this, and love is not simply I love you. It is not simply two hearts connecting to one another. Love, in all cases, are due to the connection process as well. And when someone desires to intimately come to know you or understand you, if you have not had great knowledge of that human, it is nearly impossible to open your heart to that degree. That could be otherwise extremely beneficial to letting go of that resistance. So if you desire to get rid of the two places where most resistance are, work with the heart and solar plexus chakra. Work with your linear time, your sense of self, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your collective, and allowance of being vulnerable to emotions of others. Allowing yourself to express your emotions verbally through the throat chakra and energetically through senses of emotional intimacy, even if that requires you sitting down with someone that you have never met at a restaurant and simply pouring your heart out to them. These are the small things that can be done that can open that heart chakra more deeply. Being unafraid of co-creating with others that you do not know and being vulnerable with opening that level. And of course, allow your intuition to play a great part of this. There are humans, of course, who live in the spectrum vibration, energy of negative. So if you open up to them, they may manipulate you or hurt you. Yes, of course. But if you are in alignment with being open, your intuition will tell you when another human is not up to good.
Thank you, Aridif. That was very helpful.
Yes, of course.
Aridif, my next question is about guides, like, spiritual guides or like higher level guides. Do all of us have guides assigned to us when we come to Earth? If yes, what do they help us with, and how do we connect with them? Do I have any guides? Do they have a message for me? And what is a good way for me to communicate with them and get in touch with them and get some guidance from them?
Yes, first of all humans do in fact have guides with him, and certain level of guidance entities within your guidance center are of course given to you before entering the Earth Collective. But this is only the intimate lowest level of guidance center, but the most important guides for the human experience. These are what we call spirit guides, and these are the entities that are non-physical before you are physical in that experience. All of these entities have gone through several dozen to several hundred lifetimes with you, through reincarnations, whether it is from Earth or other planetary consciousnesses. All of you have been through quite a great deal together. You trust these entities upon a soul level, unlike most entities. And just as they are taking the place as your guides in this incarnation, so too will you be their guide when they are incarnating, as incarnation is not linear in the time-scale fabric. So you are experiencing these entities in the least direct way. And of course, this is not common sense to most humans and counterintuitive to the rest. The common energy of co-creation for that energy is working simply through the chakra system itself. This means that these entities are embedded inside of your own consciousness as a part of your internal chakra systems and work only with those chakras. They do not manipulate the energy. They cannot shift or change the energy. They are only there to assist it to move in the proper fashion. Most humans, after being out of the physical incarnation cycle for more than 100 years, when going back into the physical body, it becomes so heavy that if those guides were not there, most humans would commit suicide as a young child or find a way to separate their life quickly after birth. It is an extremely heavy vibration for a soul that is so light to enter, even knowing that you are entering that energy. When you are in the body, you forget what you knew. So, of course, it becomes extremely heavy. And these guides work with you specifically, your own guides at this level. There are three for most humans. You are not an exception to that construct. You have an entity that works in the first, second chakra, the second that works in the third and fourth, and the third that works in the fifth, sixth, and seventh chakra, working with all of the components and themes that align with those chakras specifically. Now, of course, you have another layer of guides These are the ones that are not as intimately connected with you in relationship forms of ways, but entities that you work back and forth with more so than your own personal guides, even though they are part of your ever-waking and ever-sleeping day as internal guides. The external or generic guides are the ones that work with you in your dream state, the ones that work with you psychically, the ones that work with you in multiple dimensional layers. And of course, these entities are entities that are mostly from either your own oversoul, fractals of consciousness that may be a future fractalization of yourself, a parallel version of yourself, a probable past version of yourself, or are within a soul family that co-creates. The majority of those that are closest to you and do the most work with you are in fact within your own oversoul. And these entities work as you would believe them to work. You can call upon those that are type 2 but benevolent may assist you in certain ways with certain entities. Those that are type 1 will give you love. You can utilize that love for your own benefit. Those that are type 2 in the semi-benevolent to semi-malevolent range may in fact interfere with other entities that are trying to interfere with your experience in non-physical levels, as they are not afraid to change the outcome of your experience. Mostly, you are working with that of the type 1 and type 2 highly benevolent variety. But even those that are in the mid-range benevolent vibration still hold you dear to them, still hold respect to you, and will not try to remove forms of sovereignty. And as a soul creator consciousness with 3 internal guides, no external entity has enough vibrational ability to step into a pattern of your own experience that you would not have created yourself if they were not there as well.
Okay. Aridif, one question I had was towards the end, you said, I am working with multiple guides, which are, did you say benevolent or malevolent?
Yes, they are benevolent.
Benevolent. Okay.
Yes.
All right. This brings me to another question, which is, I have often read, and the way I understand is that my reality, day-to-day reality, is a reflection of my vibration that I'm currently in. So if I am in a high vibration state, I am on a moment by moment level manifesting things which are of a higher vibration. And if this is true, I don't know if this is true, but if this is true, then if I'm going about my day trying to be positive and in a high vibration, and this has been going on for a couple of days, then why do people suddenly get into an accident, or they suddenly have a disaster that should not have happened if they continue to maintain that high vibration? So why is that this paradox, or this unexplained sort of dichotomy in life then?
Yes, of course. We'll give you an example after expressing this construct, which may not make sense at first. If they are truly in their own vibration of excitement, happiness, and pure high vibration, then that accident or disaster, as you would perceive it, was well needed for their experience, and let us explain why. First of all, if a human being is trying to be in high vibration, they are not being in high vibration because they are placing attempts within that experience to be excited, to be nice and kind and loving, simply because you believe you'll receive something in return. It will not work because it has an expectation attached to it. If you desire to simply be yourself, and that is a loving person who is excited, then you'll be high vibrational already. And if you are yourself, without expectations, without acting a certain way for a desired outcome or something in return given to you, and an accident does occur, it is meant to that experience for the greater part of your life expansion. We have always shared that the cat that chases the laser is akin to your higher fractal consciousness showing you the way to the next open door for the pathway in your greater experience. And what we mean is if you follow your excitement as the cat follows the laser, you'll always be in the right place, even when that right place looks wrong, because you have an expectation of what is the best or what is not the best for your experience. It will often taint certain levels of that experience. And we'll give you a short example. Trebor Yitney, when first speaking to Rob early in the co-creation field of channeling, was speaking to another human. And this human shared a story about the pain and suffering that he had just gone through after being at a job for 12 years, lost his job because he was hospitalized from a car accident. This accident was a detriment to the entire experience of himself. He lost all that he valued in his work, lost his car, and spent several weeks or several months in that time inside of the hospital region. And of course, why am I suffering? Why am I going through this? And after Trebor Yitney shared with him to try to sit in that experience with some form of openness, with some form of excitement, even if drawn from the lowest level of excitement, to work with it in that way. And after some time, this entity returned, although when he disconnected from Rob himself, was extremely angry that he was given nothing, that he is going through this, and it seems as if he is cursed to go through it. The next time that Rob and him spoke, he shared a story with Rob himself, and this story is that during the accident, this entity spent time with his family, and after gaining some of that family reunion form back, whereas not before they could, as his own work took him outside of the ability to spend time with him. After his wife and his children or child began to work back with his own energy, the wife admitted to him that she was in the process of getting ready for divorce because of the time that he had spent away, and this time gained closeness to one another again. The entity that was giving him physical therapy was in same excitement within their own hobby and became great friends, and the entity that was within the area of his next door neighbor, the room, also became great friends. 2 new friendships were born. One of these friendships yielded a new job availability as both of them started a new company together through their common hobby excitement, and became 3.5 times more lucrative than the last job, which was extremely lucrative. And it was because he was following his own excitement, which led him to that level, which opened himself to just sit back and experience, and it led him to all the things that he desired. But he did not perceive that it was possible and had expectations. Once those were removed, the doors opened.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Aridif.
Yes, of course.
Aridif, the other question I had was on channeling, and I would love to, channel myself to be able to get certain understand concepts or get ideas, or just get clarifications on day-to-day questions that I have. And I I have, I've tried to quieten my mind, but I have not been very successful. Do you have any, suggestions or any comments or anything you want to share with me that would either help me get channel, help me channel easier or better, or just some advice about channeling in general? Just some thoughts from your side.
Yes, of course. First of all, within the construct of channeling, the perspective of channeling is important. You often perceive channeling as the construct of an entity that is external to you, going through your own physical body, your own psychology, your own telepathy, and working with you to share a message in where you can share with others, either in direct, delayed, or communicative, semi-delayed form. That the energy can work as co-creative network for you to channel. And of course, this holds great levels of truth that are embedded within, but also the construct in the way that you can perceive the channeling energy is your own consciousness being open enough to connect to entities that are already part of your system of co-creation, entities that are already within your greater, larger guidance system. Having that relationship with that entity, having an openness for relationship with that entity will be the opportunity for the entity to utilize your own mechanisms and share the energy and messages, of course. And of course, the energies that are related to channeling are often related to all of the things that humans desire in their own experience. And that is, there's one simple question that will give you more answers than any other question that exists in the human query list, and that is, what is the purpose of doing this? What is it that I desire to receive from this at this moment? Channeling will give you an opportunity to receive answers that you feel you have no opportunity to answer within yourself or around yourself without accessing expensive forms of co-creation, such as utilizing Rob's own ability to work with us through that means, or finding videos and recordings upon our internet collective. It seems so very distant from you yourself in this moment, and part of that energy and resistance is part of the way that you perceive this, because it feels so drastically distant from you, because it feels as if none of the energies that are involved in the answers could be a part of your own expression or could be accessible by your own consciousness. Only furthers the divide between yourself and those answers in the utilization of your heart connection with either the entity itself or the idea of sharing space with another entity will help lead you to the answers with no expectations on the what, wheres, and whens of that construct. This is your key to open that energy more so. The allowance of yourself being the greatest version of yourself that is possible, not the best version, but the greatest version, and not the greatest as in what others think that you should be, or even in parts what you yourself think that you should be, but simply the part of you that opens yourself to being yourself. The first entity that you must channel is your true self. The second entity that you must channel is your higher fractal consciousness. The third entity that you channel can be a myriad of entities that are already there in the precipice, waiting for the co-creational field of energy to bring forward that precipice to the forefront and allow the co-creation in that way as well. We also wish to share with you that there's time for one query remaining.
All right. Aridif, my next and final question was around parallel realities. And let me set the question up. Are there really infinite parallel realities? And is there a slightly different version of me in each one of these? Like, is there one where I am a plumber, a car mechanic, a computer salesman, whatever? And is it possible to switch from parallel reality from one to the other? So, for example, and if it is possible, what happens to the other version of me that was in that other parallel reality? Does that person go away? Is there a swap? And let me give you an example. So, for example, I currently have two kids. And if I try hard enough, is it possible that tomorrow I wake up in other parallel reality where I have like 3 kids or 5 kids or something like that? So that is my question.
Yes, of course. Now, this is a complex construct that requires a great deal of time and effort to express in a way that is fully functionable and understandable, and even still, most humans do not have the capacity to fully understand in whole. So, we'll give you a compressed version of that answer and express it in such a way that will hold sense. There are infinite versions of probabilities of what you can be and what you are. And some of those versions of you are, of course, entities that are plumbers, and entities that are computer salesmen, and entities who have 5 and 25 children. Now, of course, these are different versions of yourself that are manifest, but are not manifest in a physical reality itself. The oversoul structure is multiple hundreds of trillions of entities that exist all within one form of consciousness. And the hierarchy form of consciousness allows each oversoul to have its theme. But at the birthing of the Earth collective consciousness, as the oversouls were created, divided out of the greater collective consciousness, then there was form, mitosis, extraction of consciousness, a reproduction of that same oversoul, and creates what we would call the twin soul. The twin soul is not a soul that lives in physical reality. The twin soul is the mechanism in which all of those probabilities are created. And what we mean by this, the version of you that exists in this moment, is the version of you that you are focused on in this moment. The version of you that has made every single decision in your experience that you have, that has led you to the amalgamation of all of those experiences as a whole. And you are changing your vibration each moment. You are focused in your oversoul as a lower fractal consciousness and an entire entity that is attached to the lower fractal consciousness. The oversoul is the physical manifest. The twin soul is the probability creator for that energy. Now you have a decision to make in this moment. Do you turn left or turn right on the road that you are driving? You are turning right. So the version of you that turned right, there's a version of you that turned left. There's a version of you that turned right 3 seconds later. A version of you that turned left 3 seconds later. A version of you that drove forward where there was no road and drove into the building. All of those are probable, and the amounts of probabilities are infinite. So the twin soul holds all of these probabilities, but the one that is closest to the center is the one that is the most high probability that you'll take in your next step. So the turn left and turn right versions were placed at the right and left of the center of that twin soul. The version that you chose was pulled to the center and exchanged into the oversoul with the version that you were 1 second previous. And then you manifest that version of yourself. And it continues going on and on. If you desired to slide into a reality in which has greater differences, it could occur if your consciousness was focused enough, if you understood the mechanisms enough, and if you placed a great amount of energy into creating that version of you, yes. But most humans will never have an opportunity to go outside of the first 2 or 3 slots to the left and right, that central portion of the twin soul, due to the belief systems, due to the development, due to the place and where you are in evolution, and due to the amount of consciousness that you have available to yourself. So, is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? No. Most humans cannot go past those 2 or 3, and the small percentage that cannot go past 4 or 5. The version of you that drove straight into the building is 7 or 10 cards outward in the layer of all possible and probable energies. And that was so far away, most humans could not reach it. The most developed humans that exist only were able to go 5 to 6 slots away from the center portion of probable experiences.
Understood. Aridif, this was a really, really good explanation, and thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yes, of course. Now we understand that you are where our time is done for this day, but before we disconnect, we wish to express to you what we have expressed to many for a long time and period, that as you have asked your queries of this day, and we given you those answers, You have perceived those answers, reflections back to you in the way that grows and expands your own ability to start perceiving that reflection yourself. And because all of us are connected, all of us are shared consciousness from higher fractal consciousness that is beyond our personal solar system collectives and even galactic collective consciousnesses. As the one universal consciousness expresses itself, you are growing. And because you have grown, so too are we growing. We congratulate you for the growth that you have had, and we thank you for the growth that you have shared with us as well. We bid
Thank
you
you
adieu for this evening, and of course, you are loved.
Thank you so much, Aridif.
Yes, of course, adieu.
Hey everybody, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I told you that after the video was done, we're going to list off some things that are going on. We're going to be doing another channeling class this month, and we're going to start doing them every month, and we're going to start having those on the website. No longer are these going to be externally website things. We ended up having the host of our last ticket sales place not pay us for the last 2 months of events. That's why we didn't have one last month. We were trying to get everything worked out with Eventbrite before we spent any more time and energy promoting events through them. So we found a way to do it through the website, and more information will come out as soon as we make that public. We'll post a small 2 to 3 minute video explaining about that. So we will have a group channeling class this month in April. Also, private sessions are available and shared sessions are also available. It was for 5 people at 20 minutes each, but 20 minutes wasn't enough, so we cut it back down to 4 slots at 30 minutes each, and that tends to go well. It tends to work for everyone. So we're going to end up doing that for everybody, and we're going to end up giving you guys what you asked for, and each week, 1 time per week, we're going to be doing 4 people sharing a session, 30 minutes each, so a 2-hour total session split across 4 people equal time every Friday for the foreseeable future. We're also going to be getting more videos out, and we're going to be trying to work to get ourselves to Patreon. Anyone who's not at Patreon but you want to see extra content, or you want to have an opportunity to have your questions asked TReb or Aridif directly each month, 1 question, if you want to be able to suggest topics and vote on topics to hear an in-depth topic about that, then go to patreon.com/etwhisper, or just type in etwhisper into the search when you get to Patreon. That'll take you right to us. We're trying to get that instead of 2 times a month where we live stream with everyone there who joins us and then you can listen back. We're going to try to bump that up to 4 times per month, once a week. But we're also giving 4 years of archives when you sign up. So the minute you sign up for that, you literally have 4 years of 2 channelings or more per month that you can go back and listen to. And I'm talking about as many hours as we have on YouTube accumulated now. We probably have a good chunk of that on Patreon alone now. So it is exclusive content, it's premium content, and it's paid content, but that's what we have to do to meet our obligations so that we can put more time into channeling, and that's why we want to ramp that up, and we want to get it to once a week. But we can't do it once a week until we have enough people joining there to make up for the money of the sessions that we'll have to cancel during the week, the one-on-one sessions, so we can still meet our obligations. We're also going to be selling more digital media coming very soon. We're trying to get some people who are willing to help with the editing process of that, the archive process of that, people ideally who would trade for channeling and things of that nature. We're working on doing that. If you yourself feel like that's something you could do or something you want to do, let us know. We're taking people who are willing to trade sessions for that. We're also trying to get more energy in towards small clips with dedicated topics, Aridif, TReb, and also Metatron. I want to bring Metatron back and start channeling him more frequently and more visibly, and that is also in line for the docket with what we've got trying to converge in the next month or 2. We also were supposed to have our radio network back up by now, but with a few things in our normal life with the kids, that didn't happen. But we are diligently working towards that. We even have time dedicated each week for that. So hopefully mid-month or the end of the month, by this month, we'll at least have a start on that. And if not, hopefully next month, because that's a very important thing for me too. I don't get to hang out with all of you guys during channeling. I'm off with TReb, and all of you guys get to have the fun hanging out and communicating, talking about these great subjects, and, you know, hanging out and spending time together. And I love TReb, but I also like to engage with people, so the radio show gives me the opportunity to do that. It's really something I'm really looking forward to, and I'm also working to get the project with William O'Neill and that. A lot of things coming together. Some of the things we've been waiting years for answers for with the kids are finally coming to fruition, where we've got it in alignment to figure out those things so that we can address those as they come, and also have the opportunity to do a lot of great other things. So anyway, guys, that's what we've got going on. We're going to be having more videos in the near future. We're also going to be sharing more private sessions. If you've ever done a session with us in the last year, and you have a recording of it, or you know that there was a recording available and you want to share your session, let us know. If you want to share it from start to end using your name, let us know. If you just want your name taken out, let us know. If you want your voice taken out and only Trevor artists, let us know. And you can contact Mary at etwhisperer.com and let them know that you're really desiring to share your session. If you see me in Discord, if you see Spiky in Discord, or my sister Mary in Discord, or if you see us on Facebook, let us know that you want to share your sessions, and we'll definitely put your name into the list of sessions shared. We want to share as much content as we can here in the near future, and you guys who have already shared your sessions or wanted to share sessions or gave us permission but we never got to it because our life was crazy, whatever the case is, let us know. We'll work on getting that done. I just want to thank all of you guys. You guys have been here supporting us financially, energetically, with your kind words and comments and love and everything else, and we really want to let you guys know how important that is to us. We love you with all of our hearts. Thank you guys for supporting our family so that we can support you, and so that all of us can support each other, which is kind of the way I feel life is meant to be and Earth is meant to be. Thank you for helping us do that. We love you guys with all of our heart. We love you so, so much. We'll see you guys on the other side.